Shamangelic Healing podcast is designed as a platform to share authentic conversations about real life issues, providing you with valuable resources and tools to support you in shining your most authentic self, creating a thriving life that you absolutely love, and to support you in manifesting your soul's mission. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing podcast with your hostess, Anahata Ananda. I am so excited about today's guest, Daniel Posney, and we are going to explore awakening the divine masculine. And Daniel is a dear friend. He is walking his walk on the divine masculine embodiment, and he is a healer and soul guide, helping people awaken into their consciousness and their fullest potential right here in Sedona. One of my dear colleagues and friends, and we dive deep. There's some authentic, real pearls and gems. I know that you're going to love this conversation, and please like it, share it, and subscribe so that you can follow more conversations like this. So enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing podcast with Anahata and my dear brother, Daniel Posney, who is another phenomenal healer and guide here in Sedona. And today we're exploring about the awakening of the divine masculine. Yes! And it's such a valuable topic, and I thought of nobody more perfect than you. Because I've watched you for years evolve and grow and explore and learn and really do a phenomenal job at coaching others on this as well, and embodying it.
Thank you.
And humble enough to dance the struggle with a level of humility
and humor.
And humor.
Says humor. Got to have that.
Right. So welcome.
Thank
you.
So
good to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited about it because, like, when you say embody it, that's the key thing. Like, I talked about it for a long time, but when you really embody it, that's when it just kind of comes out so naturally with passion. And it's one of those things where I can't stop talking about it.
Yeah, right.
And I love it when I meet a man that's really open to exploring this, that's so brave and courageous to go into it with me. Yeah. And I can also see the transparency of the man that's not ready. Yeah. And that was me long ago.
Right.
And I know what that feels like.
Right, and you know, it's a journey because it's such deep programming, and everything about this awakening the divine masculine is for men and women, because within our archetype here of embodiment there is masculine qualities and feminine qualities. And so this podcast is definitely for everybody, so that we can identify those kinds of things that are maybe that unconscious, unhealthy masculine, and also how to get over to and evolve and grow and heal those things that are obstructing this most beautiful, empowered aspect of the half of us that is the divine masculine. So,
yeah, and I feel like that part of the problem is that we don't know what we don't know, kind of thing. Like, I got so used to learning how to cope with that energy, with those patterns, not knowing that there's this other way. And I always thought, like, I don't know, like I'd have to be some kind of monk or something, or some kind of special person to go into that. But it's really, for me, it was just looking at myself and inquiring about myself and letting go of like those limiting beliefs and that kind of thing, and really taking a good look at myself with love.
Which is scary, and you know, like you say, there's a lot of us aren't ready to go. A lot of us are not ready. Yeah. To really look at what we're hiding and what we're protecting in there. And so how would you describe, if we just start for those people that are listening or watching that really don't know what that is but have heard about it, let's talk about that kind of definition, or what kind of embodies that.
Like the divine masculine,
what qualities do you think represent that?
When I am in the divine masculine, I feel very much like the protector, but I'm not the push down. It's not that kind of like push everything down protector. I stand in that, and I stand in this very confident but not overpowering energy. I'm very inventive. I take responsibility. I'm really focused and directed. And I'm just like, I don't need to battle anybody. It's not that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of ahimsa, which means nonviolence, is that when the divine masculine is embodied and leading, it's not harming, hurting, or overpowering anyone. The opposite is true. It's actually inspiring and holding space, allowing for people to rise. It feels like there's a lot more of cooperative leadership in the divine masculine
Yeah, right.
archetype, and humility and willingness to collaborate, and a confidence that doesn't mean we're not going into new uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Because the ability to face fear without moving into control or aggression, and other qualities that I think are a level of impeccability and
Integrity.
integrity
Right.
is the
Yeah.
big one, and being honest about things, and being able to be the truth teller even when it's not popular or
Yeah.
liked. What other qualities do you think really embody the divine masculine?
Well, integrity is a really big one, but authenticity is another one. Where before I was that guy that would want to be the people pleaser, and that's not really in that divine masculine. And what I found is that even when I'm able to say no to people, when I'm discerning about what really excites me, I'm in that energy that I'm more self-contained in my own determination, and then I feel confident about making that decision because it's good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably good for the other person too.
Right, a better version, more fuller version
Yeah.
of you is showing up to relationships, experience, career, all of those pieces as well. Other qualities I think about with the divine masculine is, you said protector, guardian, and also the provider. And I mean within men and women to be able to provide for ourselves and to be able to provide for other people as well. And so I
Yeah.
think there's a level of service that is aligned with the divine masculine, that it says, I'm not here to just take care of myself. There's a part of me that is
Yeah.
in a devotional service to some higher purpose, and also wanting to support or help a situation. That's where I think the guardian and the protector comes in, is to be able to provide support for those that can't provide it for themselves.
Yeah, and it's that forward momentum. It's that, or the forward thing. Like I think about the masculine, not the male energy, but the masculine energy is this forward thing. And I think about the feminine energy as the cultivating and the creative and the expressive. And then you take that divine masculine and it goes forward to take action to create in that way.
Yeah, the action part I think is really big,
Yeah.
because we can have the ideas, but without the masculine saying, let's get it done, he's the tasker, he's the one that's going to really say, what are the analytical steps? And I think associating that with the left side of the brain is the part of our brain that is more analytical, and let's take these steps to get where we need to go, and definitely action oriented.
Yeah.
And courageous in to face whatever is in the unknown. That level of courage.
That's when you just hit on
Ooh,
and
that's a
there's
big
the other
one.
way that used to be really big with me is, well, still is, embracing the unknown. I remember when I was pulling those animal cards, the Black Panther, and I kept on getting embrace the unknown, and it's this letting go and allowing that divine masculine to carry forward, and instead of like the little wondering what's going to happen and in that worry. Yeah.
Oh, you can get so stifled in that place, and it feels like the spiritual warrior is able to face the unknown because there is that connection to a higher power and divine.
Exactly.
Like someone has his back.
Right.
The divine masculine, he's not solo. That's where he can go into those uncharted territories and be courageous and face the dragon of the unknown, whether that's telling a person you really care about them, whether that's saying no to a career that doesn't fit any longer, or whether that's the courage to be honest about what really our passion is, and it's not this thing anymore.
Your relationship, your emotions, all
Right.
that stuff that usually standard response from men is to just kind of not go into that, because how can you go into it without knowing how to go into it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
But
so
they-
this is embracing the unknown and be
Yeah.
like, okay, well, we'll see what's there, and I can handle it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to fall. the divine masculine, there's still this challenge.
That's the other piece, like being able to make a mistake, being okay, like I'm going to go forward in this, and I will make mistakes. That's the part that holds a lot of men back when they're not in that, is that they're so worried about making a mistake that they don't go forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That paralyzation, that the fear of doing it wrong, will then just doing nothing.
Yeah, I can't even move forward.
I think that's where humility comes in. The humility that says, okay, well, I'm going to try this. It may not be graceful. It may not be pretty.
It ain't going to be pretty.
It may not. It might take me 100 or 100,000 times to get it right. And so there's the humility of that willingness to be awkward and to make mistakes and to be challenged and say, yep, I did that and that wasn't so great, and to try it again.
Yeah.
And so I think all of those qualities are really beautiful of just, being in that authentic place. And something about power is really valuable here, about where the divine masculine sources his power. And so where do you feel that is?
Well, it's definitely not in my ego identity. It's not in my identity as a person. It's not in Daniel. And that's the part that I come to I don't quite understand the whole thing, but I know that I'm much more than what I thought I was. And that, like the embracing that unknown part of that, that's kind of where I get my power, is that when I go into a session, I drop myself out of it and I say, okay, Spirit, you got this. This is not about me. And I'm just continually amazed about what happens in the session. Words are coming out of my mouth. Even like right now, words are coming out of my mouth and I can't control it from my brain. And I know that Spirit is always guiding me in that. This is not just the Daniel mind at play.
Right, but that hasn't always been the case for you.
No way.
Hell no. And I want to, for everybody listening and watching, I really want to acknowledge that the awakening the divine masculine for women and for men, it's a journey of unraveling all of those things that are ego, that are identity, that are programs, that are really deep, unhealthy, unnatural, and even untrue beliefs about ourself, our identity, success, what is appropriate, what is masculine, and actually questioning and dissolving all of those things that aren't true, aren't real, aren't ours, or don't
Aren't
fit
in
any
alignment.
longer. They don't align
Yeah.
any longer, and having that willingness to dissolve and dismantle all of these constructs that have actually held us together.
Yeah.
It's just, wait, well, I don't let anybody win, because I don't, that doesn't. A man doesn't do that, or a woman doesn't do that. Like, you don't let somebody else win.
Yeah, you need to be strong and protect yourself and not let people crap all over you.
Right. And like questioning every one of those paradigms that are constructs that are keeping each of us from really embodying a healthy version of that. So let's talk a little bit more about what unhealthy looks like.
Let's get into this.
Let's be honest and real. Like, okay, tell
All
me
right.
one of those.
Where's the tissues?
Yeah. Let's truth time. Okay.
All right, I'm
Stay
ready.
tuned. We're about to get really real here. Share with me some of your experiences as you have watched yourself evolve, and you go back and look at that time, which maybe was yesterday.
Yeah, right.
Could be tomorrow. It's a work in progress for sure for all of us.
Oh my gosh.
But what are some of those experiences that you can remember and want to forget, frankly?
Yeah.
That you
Thank you for bringing them up right now.
and let everybody know about it, where you were really in your out of balance masculine and were maybe destructive.
And it's such a it's a lost place. Like it brings up so much emotion for a man to feel so lost.
Yeah, honey.
And so I lost my dad when I was 12.
Yeah.
And he was such a balanced man. And talk about being balanced in your masculine and feminine. What I mean by that, he would fix the Land Rover and mow the yard, and he would make boat seats, and he would be a machinist, but he's the one that we kiss goodnight. He was the nurturing, loving one.
Oh.
So when he died, I didn't have much of a template out there in society to look at. And that was the most lost that I've ever felt, is what am I supposed to do here? I have a choice of becoming like watching football all day long and drinking beers and chasing women and trying to get laid. And that's one way. And I think what I did is I went like the peaceful, loving guy, and that served me for a while because, you hang out in yoga studios and you hang out with women and that's all great. But after a while, I just lost myself. I lost that. I didn't even know what it was to have that divine masculine drive.
Yeah.
And what I did was I preoccupied myself with things, with activities and sports. I got involved in triathlons and surfing and playing volleyball and drinking. So all these things to take myself away from what I didn't know how to deal with. How can I even go into it when I don't even know what to do when I get there? So for me, what needed to happen, because I was so good at faking it in my life, I needed everything to crumble down. Because otherwise I would just continue to put on the mask of happiness and that I've got it all together.
Nothing's going to change unless it has to change.
Yeah.
But we're stubborn.
Right.
And like, who wants to go into a painful experience? And it's just like the only way, and so that ignoring, which is quite an unhealthy masculine thing. Let's ignore, let's sedate.
Yeah.
Let's, not
Poo-poo it
be
away.
honest.
Yeah.
Let's not look at that. Let's just put it under the carpet. And then the cost is sedation, and the part of our authenticity isn't there, and so usually depression,
It
anxiety.
spirals. Like I was thinking about suicide. That's where I got to.
figured.
And I remember being at my work, and I was in the locker room, and I was changing from doing some activity, and my boss came in, and he was the sweetest guy, really friendly guy, and he came in and he sat next to me, and he looked at me, and he wanted to say something, and I knew he was there, but I just completely put up a wall, right? Like he was this close, and I didn't say anything. He didn't say anything, and I knew that he wanted to connect with me, but I just energetically shut him down, and he just got up, and it was right at that time that I realized I messed up. There's something going on, and he can see it, and I need to look at this.
And he probably didn't know exactly how to, 'cause I think men and women we don't know how to do this sometimes, is that we don't know how to help somebody. It's more uncomfortable to be like, okay, let's joke about this.
Exactly.
Let's go for beers.
Yeah, right.
Let me
Yeah.
kind of reinforce your victim mentality.
Yeah.
Let's go distract. And I
Yeah.
think that's our coping mechanism. And it kind of just delays the healing, and it deepens the wound. And then we also feel so alone in that. I mean, suicide is not one of those typically communal experiences.
Yeah.
The depression at that level happens in the shadows. It happens in the closet. It happens alone, because we're disconnected and afraid,
Yeah.
or don't feel safe to be that vulnerable.
Exactly, and that's the other part of it too, is that men, for the most part, don't feel like they can connect with another man on that level.
Yeah.
So here you are, you've got this thing going on, don't know how to connect with him for fear of someone's going to think you're gay or that you're messed up or a
Sissy,
pussy
right.
or whatever it is, and so you just box it up and learn how to deal with it some other way.
So I just want to acknowledge that the social programming here. Now we are going to get into gender for a little bit, and this is, I work with my clients a lot on this when we start to, kind of separate out gender programming of how much men are told, don't cry, don't feel, don't talk about it, don't be a wussy,
Yeah.
get back up, be tough. And so that starts so young.
Mm-hmm.
And I have twins that are, boy and girl twins, and I got to see, I mean, they're exactly the same age, exposed to the same things, and I got to see how gender programming was like, if both of my kids would have the same experience, how my son was kind of bullied into toughing it up and not being creative or emotional or have tears or any of that.
Yeah.
And how much social programming tells a man, don't cry, don't feel, don't talk about it. And what was that cost for you in order to fit in with other boys or young men, especially after father wasn't there?
Oh my gosh.
What was the cost?
I mean, that was the thing that my brother knew how to, sorry, he's a great guy now, but back when we were kids, he knew how to hit me.
Yeah.
And the way that what he would say is, don't cry, Dan. And that just hit me because I was an empath and I was connected with the
sensitive.
emotion, sensitive. And when he would say that, I would just crumble because that was a deep part of me. And I knew that, like, he knew that was the thing that would get me. And that was an opportunity for me to, like, either drop out of, see, we shared friends. So I either got to, like, buck up and get in there or just completely go somewhere else.
You know, and I think that that's a coping mechanism of like in elementary school, junior high, high school, it's like buck up and fit in, you know, the social pressure to be different and it's so hard to be different and authentic, and the social pressure to conform is so deeply grooved.
Yeah.
The judgment and the ridicule is so harsh that this is not uncommon for men and women, boys, girls, to actually barter a part of themselves just to get through
It's a
that
good way of
time.
putting it. Barter a part of
Yeah,
themselves.
to barter a part.
Yeah.
You know, it's, as a coping mechanism, we've probably all done that. I know I've done that. That we just kind of go dormant and, like you said, fake it, right? And put up those masks. And then we think that that's our identity. Oh, I have to be this way to fit in, to be liked.
Exactly, and then so it continues.
And so it continues.
And there's also physical ramifications of not fitting in.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get your butt beat.
Sure.
And stuff can happen.
Which happens a lot more with guys at a young age, where there's physical aggression. If you're a sissy, or if you're, you know, different, is that you can get physically.
Wear the wrong colors, wear the wrong clothes. Yeah.
I want to just get with how deep that social programming is so young. That says if you are yourself, you're going to get beaten, you're going to get made fun of, you're going to get rejected. And I want to acknowledge that for everybody listening, and for the aspect for women too, of because we'll fear that fear as well of being rejected and ridiculed, and it's not quite as deep, I don't think, as with men.
Yeah, I know that with my daughters, there's a certain age when they start getting their little cliques, and they'll push people out of their group kind of thing. But boys, they just kind of fight it out, and they just
don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it and just fight it out.
Yeah, girls gossip about it, but not to your face, but
Right.
behind your back. We handle it a different way. Totally. So, how long were you in that struggling
Oh, jeez.
place?
Now we're, oh my gosh, how long was in it? Just a couple years ago.
Yeah, and
I mean,
I want to just get with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And I think
a
that
long
that's-
time of not knowing how to deal with it, how to work through it. And if you're like a man like myself, I kind of prided myself on doing it alone, doing it by myself. I never asked for any help because I wanted to, I don't
That's
know.
weak.
I think maybe a part of me wanted to suffer a little bit or something, but I just kind of went on my own until like I said, I found that one time where I started to be authentic with myself. And that's, when you were talking about when we don't even know who we are because we're trying to fit into society, when you can get to that place like I did, I needed everything to crumble down to find out who the hell I was. And that was just a breakdown of everything that I thought I was. And that's why it was so deeply penetrating to my soul.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to discover that because I had a lot of stuff to let go of.
Well, right. When it all crumbles, your identity can't be any longer associated with this job, this relationship, this role, because if those roles are gone, then who am I?
Right.
And then we get to actually, when we peel all of that back, now we get to find the authenticity.
Yeah.
And the healthy masculine, the conscious masculine, the divine masculine has the opportunity to start being discovered. Or we go the coward route and say, no, I'm out, which can be checking out. It can be, and checking out might be sedating
Different
more,
levels,
blame, external aggression, because now this is where the unhealthy masculine gets really unhealthy, where it's physical and emotional abuse towards other people because there's such pain there. Physical or emotional abuse towards self, so then there's, this is at the root cause of a lot of the addictions that are, because we're addicted to sedating, because good God, who wants to feel that?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And yet that's the liberation, is through the process of feeling and not sedating, and through the process of actually being with it, rather than blaming and pushing the aggression out towards somebody else, but actually getting still and really being honest with, wow, who am I, and what's really happening here and so I want to acknowledge the choice to stay, because that's the beginning of the divine masculine waking up. The choice to, like, I'm going to feel this, I'm going to face this, I may need to ask for help, I may need to get some support, I may need to admit Those are all the healthy qualities: cooperation,
Yeah.
humility, courage. Those are all the divine masculine having the opportunity to express. And so I want to just acknowledge that point for those of you listening or watching that are at that place where everything's crumbling, or even if you're still somehow holding it all together, but the inside is crumbling.
Yeah.
And
It
you
needs
know
to
it,
crumble.
it has to
needs
crumble.
to
I know.
crumble. You can't like try and put band-aids on the stuff that didn't really work in the first place.
Yeah.
And it just really needs to crumble, and for you to get on a different way of perceiving your life and who you think you are.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do. And the two things that really motivated me in that is that I wanted to be the master of myself, and I did not want to be controlled. And I realized that this is a juicy one for me, because if I don't like being controlled, I use that, I guess you can call it a weakness, as my strength. And so I said, is there anything in me, even my own mind, even my own identity, that is trying to control me? And I saw it. Like, that's what people talk about with awakening, is like awakening to the truth of who you are and what you've been controlled by, your own mind and your own ego. And so I just went on this path of just discovering and pulling things out and listening. Now I'm listening to my thoughts and looking at the beliefs that I have. I'm watching the patterns that show up in my relationships with people, not only my love relationships, but my job and everything, and what my insecurities were. And I just started to look at them, and at the same time just keep on loving myself.
Ooh, so
and
tough,
forgiving
I
myself.
know.
And it's just, life gets so much better. And like you were saying before about looking at, where you were before. Now I look at the guy that I came from. I just love him. I just have such great, sorry about the mic. I have such great compassion for him and empathy for what he's trying to do the best that he can with what he has.
We all are. The biggest bully is only, that person that is wounded and hurt.
Right.
The one that is the
Yeah.
drunk jerk, is really deeply afraid to be themselves, because when they were themselves,
They got
bullied,
right.
hurt,
Yeah.
made fun of or oppressed, whether that was by their father or mother or a sibling,
Yeah.
or a partner or a peer. And so this is where women and men can find gentleness and compassion, also those qualities of the divine masculine that is, compassionate and accepting with where somebody is. And it takes courage to actually see what is underneath addictive behavior or violent behavior or narcissistic behavior or any of
There's
those.
so much fear and sadness and pain.
Insecurity and
Yeah.
like you say, sadness. And so this is where we get to evolve, even if we're looking at our own behavior or if we're looking at somebody else's behavior. And especially the more unconscious it is, the more likely we're get to be triggered by it, where our unconsciousness meets that as well, and we get triggered back into our old patterns again. And in that place we get to practice being compassionate and courageous to actually see what's real. And I think really liberating is to look at what might really be going on with this person that my human eyes are not capable, and my mind is not capable of seeing right now, because there's a deep wound. There's something I don't understand, or there would be no way they would be acting like this. And I love what you said earlier about the control part of not wanting to be controlled by the mind, because we said earlier a lot of the mind has got all of these programs in it that aren't true, aren't mine, and don't fit.
It's
They're
not
false.
interested in truth.
Yeah.
It's interested in categorizing, analyzing, and judging,
Yeah.
but not the truth.
And that's part of the divine masculine, is truth with a capital T, is like the divine truth. The bigger picture is somebody's wounds, somebody's behavior has there's something deeper there.
Yeah.
So where were you the most destructive, do you think, when you were in unconsciousness? What was some of those things that...
I would be destructive with my body. Like I would drink, and I would eat lots of sugar and drink. I would start my day, and the coffee truck would come around, and I would get a triple espresso and a chocolate muffin, and then at lunchtime I'd get a mint mocha frappuccino, and just destroy my body with just crappy food, and then drink martinis and gin and tonics and all that stuff, and just got lost in it.
Well, and it's what's socially acceptable.
Yeah.
So you don't think that there's anything wrong with you if everybody else is sedating in the same way.
Yeah. So I really destroyed my body, and I just didn't see any way out of that.
And what else? What in your external environment besides it taking a toll on your physical body?
Oh, you mean my
Oh,
relationships?
hi. Was anybody else impacted by your turdness?
Yes, yes. My children suffered. My children suffered because I didn't know how to deal with what was going on in my life. I spent so much time at work, and I didn't come home to them. And I thought I was not coming home to my wife because our relationship was on the rocks. But I
Which
also
is not
wasn't
surprising.
right. But I also wasn't coming home to my kids, and that's the part that really hits me.
Yeah. I just want to be really gentle with that, and thank you for being honest about it. And all of us, when our masculine is wounded like that, we're not showing up fully, or we're showing up either as the coward where we're hiding, or we're showing up as the bully. And some people in that situation are going to disappear, kind of like how you said, I wasn't showing up, and others will actually make messes and leave debris in different ways by being violent or
Destructive,
aggressive. And some listening are certainly have been on the receiving end of violent behavior, emotionally or physically. And I just want to acknowledge that everybody here loses when the unhealthy masculine stays like that.
But there's a way out.
There is a way
There's
out.
a way.
And that imagine if that how that changes how the relationship dynamic with a partner, how with your children, how with your physical body, how with career, a healthier work dynamic, and your liver would be happier.
My brain cells.
Yeah, and definitely our relationships and our orientation to self, how we feel about ourselves. And so I want to just pause and acknowledge that, the messes that we've made from that place of unconsciousness. And I know.
Deep breath.
It is. It's deep. And part of the healthy masculine is to meet that with gentleness and honesty. And I think that's part of the divine masculine, is able to be accountable for the messes that we've made. Okay, if I've made a mess with my children, or I've made a mess with my relationships or my physical body, okay, let me do the courageous thing and take accountability. Let me do the courageous thing and apologize. Let me do the courageous thing and start cleaning up my messes.
To me, that is the most empowering thing, because if I take responsibility, that means everything's not just happening to me.
Right.
If I really say that everything is from my own energy, thoughts, emotions, vibration, whatever word you want to use, but because of how I'm conducting this, that's how it shows up in front of me. That to me is very empowering. It sucks because it's all on me, but then I go, wait a minute, if I was the empowered one that created the stuff, the muck, I can be the empowered one to create something different. But now I know that what the dynamics are, what the science is, and like there's physics in here that I can really get into, that really I go, okay, I get it. It's vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what's exciting then is that life starts to change, because we realize, oh, if my life is a big mess, then if I change, my life can be amazing. And so that's truly liberating. And I want to, there's a piece here you were just saying about, kind of looking and going into that space and being honest about it. And that level of radical honesty is so liberating and so necessary. And the ability to evolve, then we're also in charge, that I don't have to be the jerk. I don't have to be the biatch that did that thing. That thing 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago does not have to define me.
Right.
I can sober up, I can get healthier, I can be more conscious, I can be more aware. I give myself permission to grow and evolve and learn from that prior version of myself. I had one client who was a double ex-con rapist, wife beater, beat his children, alcoholic, and he'd been in prison twice for domestic abuse and violence. And he was this beautiful, client, and he's like, I don't know what to do, because I don't think I'm worthy of redemption. I have screwed up so badly. I've hurt people so much. And I got on my knees with this client, not fearing or judging. Oh, he's an ex-con, he's a rapist, this is the enemy. It's just like, no, this is a human. This is a little boy, and who was not given great tools, was not loved and supported with the right resources. And yeah, he's alive because he had figured out how to survive, and he never had the right support to learn or heal or grow. All he had was alcohol and a fist. That's what he
can
was
get
taught.
to. Yeah, that's not who he is. That's the
No.
result of what
Exactly.
happened.
Is the result.
Yeah.
And so I got on my knees, tears, flowing
Yeah.
down my eyes, and I say, who are you now? You decide who you are now. You decide whether you go back to prison or you go back to your home. He says, like, I've got this beautiful woman. I'd love to make her my wife, and I really want to turn over a new leaf, but I'm afraid of my past. I'm afraid of being that man that is so wounded and so aggressive. And he goes, I haven't had a drink in 2 months, and I'm taking these anger management classes, because they told me I had to. In other words, society was intervening, trying to say, hey, let's give you some tools. And it was just so beautiful to meet him in that place of saying, you are the choices you make now, not your choices from 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. Ex-con is who you were.
Yeah.
You decide right now. He goes, I don't know how, but my son, who has no reason to trust or like me, is actually been so beautiful in helping forgive the past. And he goes, he's actually letting me see my grandson now because I'm doing better.
Wow.
And I said, you get to decide how you choose to show up as a man right now. Here's a next generation and the next generation where you can start to shape this family so that your son and your grandson have different tools than you had. And if you don't have those tools, well, then you can learn them. Here comes the courage.
Yeah, that was then, this is now.
At 60-something, am I willing to actually learn about healthy communication, and can I learn patience, and can I learn how to be sober? Am I willing enough? Am I humble enough to ask for help and learn something new and be vulnerable and open and cry and laugh and be the man and actually the little boy that never got to play and be loved? Can he actually give himself permission to heal at such a deep level? And that was, that experience was so beautiful because he's like, no one has ever spoken to me like I matter.
Wow. Then that is great strength to go into that process, like what you're talking about, for him to go into that and say, I thought I knew what strength was, but the strength to go into that kind of thing and to pull that apart, like to know that it's an ongoing process and you don't need to become, some kind of...
You're still going to mess up.
Whatever. Some kind of highly spiritual being, but to go through it and say, I want to look at this and I want to make my life better, and step by step. That's what I feel like my life has just taken myself from where I was to I take it to a little platform.
Yeah.
And then I become this other person and I have a new consciousness. And from that consciousness, I can never go back to the old consciousness. It just keeps on. If I keep on looking at myself in the most loving, forgiving way, then I just keep on. And I find myself in front of Anahata, sitting there having this conversation going, how did I get here?
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we don't still, it's not always a straight line, because these patterns may have been in there, like you said, for decades, and most of our life. And so the consciousness and awareness that I don't have to do that anymore, and we get to be gentle with, and sometimes I'll fall back into the old pattern. Sometimes I'll reach for sugar, or sometimes I'll sedate or ignore or go back into the old pattern. It's just what changes is that I'm meeting it now with consciousness and compassion and authenticity and honesty to actually do the courageous thing and feel it, do the courageous thing, face it, apologize for it. And that's what changes, I think, in the process of awakening that divine masculine. Is it doesn't mean we stop screwing up.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't mean that we don't still have challenges or unconsciousness, or that our wounds are all gone all of a sudden. but we get to grow with the process and be gentle with the process.
Then it becomes exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that the opportunities for me to grow the most in my courage, my authenticity, and my integrity are always when I'm meeting something unconscious. Mm-hmm. This is why we say, oh gosh, I just don't want to be with those unconscious people. I don't want to be with those relatives. And it's just like, actually,
see what comes up.
That's the opportunity to practice all the stuff that you're learning about being more patient, or being more compassionate, or communicating more clearly. Those opportunities, when you're meeting density, you're meeting your biggest villain, when you're meeting the part of you that is the most wounded, triggered by somebody externally, that's where the rubber meets the road, and you get to practice. Okay, am I going to blame right now, or am I going to claim?
Yeah.
Am I going to be judging, or am I going to be compassionate? Am I going to be courageous and in faith, or am I going to be the coward and be in fear? And it's so exciting, I think, to be in the classroom where all of this that has become theory gets to be practiced.
Yeah.
Those are the juicy ones.
I had a relationship when I was first kind of coming into this. I was my volleyball partner, and she was a bit more conscious than I was at the time. And I was kind of intrigued with that, about how she would talk about spirituality and things. It was things that I knew that were authentic to me, but just got lost along the way. And in one of our first arguments, she said, well, Daniel, if you're mad at me, it's your stuff to look at. And I went, this isn't going to last long. But we were together for 4 years, and she became my teacher. Yeah. And I remember one time she triggered me, or I got triggered on something. Yeah, right. And I can't even remember what the trigger was, because I was so gone. And the more that she would talk with me, she kept on triggering me. By the time I knew it, really, I didn't know what it was about. And we went from one story to the second story, yelling for an hour and a half. I kicked down the door. I threw a glass on the floor, and I was sitting there throwing the glass on the floor going, who are you? Yeah. And I kicked on the door, and I was like, what is going on? You've got some stuff to look at, buddy. Yeah. And then what happened is that I kicked down the door, and she came through the door, and she just stopped at the doorway, and she looked at me, and she goes, you know what? I was wrong. And she just left it at that, and I just spun. My ego didn't have anywhere to go with that. I had nothing to go back and forth with. And right in that moment, I said, I want to be like that. Yeah. I want to have that kind of strength. Right. So I can go into it and just pull into awareness like that. Right. Yeah.
And this is where, for everybody listening, we've all been into those places where our behavior, we're embarrassed by it, where we felt out of control. Whether that's with rage or emotion, or triggered by some trauma, or whatever it is, when anyone listening, watching, getting to the place where we're that triggered, there's something there that's wanting attention. It isn't about the other person.
Right.
It's not validating that whatever their behavior, whatever they've done is what they've done.
Right.
And that may be true and all of that. And what you get to sit with is, why is this so sensitive for me? What is this really about? What is this experiencing bringing up for me? What is wanting to heal right now? What is wanting to be seen? What wants attention? What wants audience? That is throwing a tantrum. Whether that's in silence and you're drinking by yourself, or you're getting violent in that situation, or blaming somebody else for what's happening in your own life, that's the opportunity for radical accountability. We've all been in those places where things feel out of control in one way or the other. And I want to just address that, and also acknowledge that there is this place to move. And it's right in that spot where we say, I don't want to be like this anymore. I remember one time when I was just overwhelmed, single mom with twins, and just overwhelmed and rushing and pushing and really stressed, and how women deal with the out of balance masculines. We tend to overcompensate, wear so many hats, be the accommodator, do everything for everybody else at the expense of self, and overcompensate with performance. And men do that too with, trying to perform with sports, or trying to perform in career, and women do that as well. well, how many hats can I wear and how many people can I take care of? How many people can I get to love me? Women kind of do that overcompensating in a different way.
Yeah.
Or
To
with,
be successful.
yeah, or
Yeah.
vanity. How
Yeah.
can I look a certain way?
Yeah.
That's why there's so many, with women around eating disorders and things like that, of just not feeling secure in their own body. Well, let me overcompensate with looking thinner. And so I remember one day where I was just rushing and pushing and forcing and all of this, and I was way, way out of balance. Hadn't slept, coffee, sugar, definitely
The
all
whole
of that,
thing.
everything, and twins on top of that, and I remember by the end of the day I was just exhausted, and I told the kids, I'm like, hey, put your toys away. It's time to go to bed. And I was barking orders. I was a little bit bitchy. By little bit, I mean a lot.
I got it.
You know,
I got
I
it.
said,
I see the
"Yeah."
translation.
Also known as Dragon Lady.
Right.
And I remember with one of my kids, I'll let them be anonymous which one it was, but I remember, his saying, hey, put your toys away, because I knew I couldn't rest and exhale until they were both in bed. And I remember being so, angry and aggravated when I came in and saw the toys weren't put away, and I was like, Dragon Lady, unleash the fury, like, I said, put your toys away, and here comes this really out of balance masculine. Really out of balance. Now, I experienced out of balance masculine from my father growing up, like where, physical experiences where it was a fury and it wasn't just words. And so I was starting to channel that part of my dad that would get
Worked
really
for him,
angry.
right?
Well, it did something. It made me scared of him. And it wounded my inner child. Still peeling back layers from that physical abuse in different situations where it was really intense. And I said, well, I'm never going to do that with my kids. But I realized, but I'm doing that with my voice, even though I never raised a hand.
Yeah.
My energy was so intense. And I said to my kid, I was standing, and they're, on the ground with their toys, and I'm like, I said,
Overpowering.
yes, power.
Yeah.
I'm, playing the power card.
Because I said
I
so.
said, put your toys away. And literally, I remember this kiddo looked up at me and was just trembling. And that was the moment for me, Daniel, that it was like, I'm not going to be like this. And I dropped to my knees instantly. And I had started the journey of being more accountable and healing. And so I was able to witness, I'm way out of balance right now. Before, I would have just blamed my kid for not snapping to and putting their toys away quickly the way I had asked. And I would have gone into the ego and the power trip of, I'm the boss, you're subservient, do what I say, damn it, and do it now. And that was how I was raised by my dad at times. And I was like, oh, this is not. And this particular kiddo, very, very sensitive of the two, like ultra sensitive, and was sitting there like trembling. And the part of me that was starting to pay attention and be accountable for my behavior stopped blaming, stopped everything, and just like, whoa, radical accountability. And I just apologized. I'm like, I'm so sorry. This isn't about you right now. I'm so, so sorry, because I don't want to be that person that elicits fear in another. I want to be that person that's safe to be around. Right. Ahimsa, nonviolence, right? And
I'm here to support you.
Right? You're supposed to feel safe with me.
Yeah.
And that was the part of me where my aggression got to the point where it was really scary for me. And I was like, okay, what contributed to this? And part of the liberation for those listening and watching is like, okay, when you get to that place where you're having a meltdown, whether it's internally or externally, with, in your case, a partner, with my case, a family member, or at work, or by yourself in a dark space, wherever you're in that place where you are just like, it's not working, look at your last 10 choices. Did I attach to something that isn't true? Did I believe something that is really not in alignment with who I am? Did I barter a part of myself? Am I not being honest with the situation? Was I not taking care of myself?
So now you're mad at yourself because of those decisions.
Those decisions to me become the classroom, Daniel. I go, I'm not mad at myself about those. I look at those decisions to understand how I got there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm looking those at opportunity to say, okay, neutrality now. I'm not going to come with guilt and shame and anger and bully myself.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to let me off the hook either, because that's not authentic. And the courageous thing is to say, what are the last 10 choices that got me here?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't sleep well. I was forcing the time. I crammed too much in a day. I didn't ask for help. We didn't play enough. I didn't take care of myself well. I didn't eat well. I mean, those 10 choices, I was like, okay, whatever's the opposite of those 10 choices is now the priority.
I'm going to make a different recipe.
And that's the bridge to me.
Yeah.
The bridge is, okay, how did I get here? Because I got myself there. My unconscious choices got me into that dragon lady, and I can get myself out by looking at those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do to get myself there? And then what do I need to get out of my life? The liberating thing is to look back at those 10 choices. Okay, I need to quit this substance, or I need to go to bed earlier, or I need to be work in more play as a mother, control less, have fun more. There was just so much for me to learn, and I had tons of content in that willingness to just look at, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
And what can I do differently? What immediately has to stop? And what are the 10 things that would be the opposite of those choices, so that I'm never here again? Mm-hmm. I am never here again. And maybe I need to learn a skill. Maybe I need to ask for help. Maybe I need to practice something else. Maybe I need to, whatever it is that I need to do to make a change, maybe something about my life I'm not being honest about, and I need to change it. That changed the whole trajectory of my parenting. That one day where everything has to fall apart. And the willingness and the humble humility to actually look at it as a lesson and to take it seriously about what I could do differently. So what is a bridge for you? How do you help move into more of the divine masculine qualities?
I was just thinking about that. How I kind of say to myself is that I'm just out of alignment right now, or out of balance, you might say. When I look at when I was in the Navy, when I was a electrician, when I was in robotics, when I was a programmer, it fed this, but didn't, fed my brain, but didn't feed my heart and my soul. And it's just, when you're out of alignment like that, when you're not feeding your soul and your heart, everything starts to get out of, everything is like, my life isn't right, and so you're upset, and then like it's a recipe for disaster and inauthenticity. And what the bridge was for me is that to move into integrity of what my soul wanted.
Yeah.
So stepping out of what I thought was security, like the programming for me was security, to start stepping out. Remember when we went to that? To start to step out of that and start to say, okay, what is the thing? I know it's stretching me and it may be a little scary, but this is the thing that I check in to see if it's expansive or if it's contractive. If it's expansive to me, then I go, okay, even though this is scary to me and I have no idea how I'm going to make this work, this is something that really feeds my soul. Like, I don't have all the, maybe the certifications or the degree for doing what I think I want to do, but this is something that I'm passionate about. And as long as I keep on moving towards my excitement, everything just keeps on lining up.
Because that's in integrity. That's back to the quality of being integrity that says, maybe this career or this relationship or this substance doesn't fit me any longer. And so what I'm hearing is the willingness to, does this nourish my heart? Is it
take a clear look at the different parts of my life, my job, relation. Doesn't mean I'm going to like move to Alaska and get a divorce. It's just that I look at it. How can I change that so that it's more in alignment with my own happiness? Right. And we're all allowed to and have permission to be happy in the way that is right for us.
And I think about being sensitive in the place where most of us feel very hard in being vulnerable, being authentic, asking for help, letting other people in, I think is very liberating in the process of evolving those unconscious patterns, is to be able to not be alone in the process. And there are so many workshops, there are so many resources to really help people with that evolution process. And I love that there's, the way of the warrior, right? The peaceful warrior.
Yeah.
And there's so many more role models now.
Yeah.
And This is where conscious parenting comes in, so that we're also passing that on to our children and then grandchildren as well, so that they're having different role models and different dialogue than perhaps you and I were raised
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
So it gives us the opportunity to help youth and help men and help women rewrite the way they look at themselves and embrace their individuality and authenticity instead of hide it, and embrace their sensitivity instead of stuff their feelings. And
Now we're getting into authentic self.
yes,
Which I feel like there's a very small percentage that I've seen that have been in their authentic nature. It's that little part you're a child before society kicks in and makes
Yes.
you fit into all that. Like, it's so exciting to me that I get to, now that I'm an adult even, I can still be my authentic self. The part of me when I was a kid that just wanted this different life, that I could create that, but I need to let go of all the stuff that I'm not.
yeah, for sure. What resource? And I think especially for men to feel vulnerable with other men, especially if the program is, don't be affectionate with a guy, because then that means that there's some, affection there, which there may not be affection. It may just be like tenderness and support. Women are a lot more affectionate with each other. And, as you work with men, what advice would you have for men that are waking up to be able to,
Yeah.
feel more comfortable with each other?
Okay. There's a couple big resources that really help me out. One is to start to embody what it is that you want to attract. So I was complaining for a long time, how come there's no men out here that are doing this work and working on their stuff? I needed to embody that. And once I did, like now in Sedona, I can count like a dozen men that are right there in that strong, nurturing, powerful nature. And the other thing that really helped me out was David Data with the Way of the Superior Man.
Yeah.
That was a powerful book. That one really, and then with Eckhart Tolle with Power of Now, of course, but especially David Data. He talks about everything that us men are too hesitant to talk about. He talks about it all.
Right.
He just kind of pulls it out there in the open. So that was a great resource.
There's all these beautiful men's groups that are happening
Yeah.
now, because there's been women's circles for a long time, and more coming. And I love to see the beautiful men's work, the divine brotherhood.
That's what I love with Chess and the other
Yeah.
guys. We have a men's group that meets, and we gather together. We have a meal together, and we're there just to support each other. And it's very clear we are not here to give recommendations, and we're not here to
Advice.
fix Daniel. It's just we're here just to listen and be present with each other and support each other. And then we have a
allow-
cuddle party.
Right. And make out. And just to allow sensitivity.
Yeah.
Because what might come up is frustration. What might come up is grief. What might come up is excitement.
Yeah.
And just to hold space for allowing a man to express himself. I think so many men are afraid to express with other men because of, well, I have to keep the walls up because I have to look like I have it all together.
Right.
And, I don't want to look like a wimp and all of that. And then that affects the way a man is in relationship, whether that's with, if your relationship is with a woman or with another man, is it affects our ability to really show up in the gentleness and authenticity to be with our partners as well.
Yeah. It's been so helpful to be around men like that, or that
Yeah.
are strong that way, that are so strong that they don't need to give you all this advice. They're just so strong that they can just be there with you. And it's like, when I to be honest, like before I go to his house and go to the men's group, I'm excited and a little bit nervous, because there is no boundaries to how vulnerable and how open I want to be. No one's going to put any judgment on me at all. So I get to be whatever I need to be.
Wow,
And that's
beautiful.
a really open place to be.
But the first time you what was it like the first time you were testing those boundaries about being vulnerable with another man?
Oh, I'm sure it shut down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
scary. Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure that happened when I was a child.
Yeah, for sure.
Happening with other boys that, well, like I said, with like family members and stuff. I remember when my dad died, my uncle said, "Don't cry, Daniel. You're the man of the house now." At 12 years old, and it just kind of hit me like, I knew it was BS.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't believe it, but it still pained me, because here's someone telling me don't have emotion. Yeah, didn't really fit.
Right? And like that's your rite of passage, is like
Yeah.
You're leader now. All of a sudden at 12, you're a leader now. You're
Yeah.
like, I don't have the skills, and not feeling is not necessarily going to help me. And because
Right.
then I'm going to have to deal with the grief of his death
Sometime.
at some point.
Right.
And so the courage to feel, I think for all of us, for men and women, is just the courage to be vulnerable and delicate and gentle. And it won't always be safe to be that with your partner currently, or with other men, or with other women. It won't always be that. And so I think being selective and allowing that where you know you're safe, and
Yeah.
to start with that process. And I think a lot of people want to hug, people want to say encouraging words and don't know how. And I work with so many clients in professional sports and in in business, that you don't realize the partner of this like global firm is feeling this. I wonder how many other closeted men and
Right.
women are, and this isn't about sexuality. This is just about, I want to be sensitive, and I want to be a better father, and I want to be a better man to my, partner. And it is all of these things that make everything else in life so much juicier. When we can feel not only the depths of the lows, but the highs of the highs. And when the divine masculine is so connected, he's invincible. That part of us in men and women, because we're not seeking validation. We don't really,
We're not in competition.
we're not in competition. We can mess up and it's okay. We're not
Yeah.
attached to that identity. And it's truly liberating to be in that place of the divine masculine leading.
Yeah.
From that
And you know what also happens, at least for us men, what that I felt, when you were talking about being with that man and being on your knees,
Yeah.
that's the connection that happens.
Yeah.
So I'm not in competition. I'm not trying to conquer or anything.
Yeah.
That's what we were meant to be. That kind of, support, that kind of, I see where you're at and I feel you. I can feel where you're at. That kind of thing, that we can go back and forth on that and not lose anything from being that way with each other.
Right. And we don't lose respect for ourselves.
Right.
We don't lose respect from somebody else.
Right.
We actually gain respect for being that vulnerable.
Right.
And I've just seen so many men and women coming out with their vulnerability and their emotions. And it's so beautiful. And that's really what's happening with all of us. And just the honesty that is a part of us.
Yeah.
And this has just been so juicy. We could go on forever, and I love it. And
We
will.
could. I've got more.
Oh, I know. We will. We will. So I just want to acknowledge the process of awakening that divine masculine for everybody, that it's gentle and it takes time and courage, and that there is support, that the people don't have to go through this alone.
Yeah.
So, and I've been doing this, like, come out of there, lead, brother. I've been doing this
Yeah.
for a decade, a little nudging. Because, there's a certain kind of healing that happens when an awake masculine is leading. Whether that's for women or for men, especially if there has been abuse with me from another man, somebody who is in his integrity and in his divine masculine, that can be very healing for a woman. And for a man that has always been in competition with men or the brothers, or always in competition in the battlefield or in the boardroom or on the playing field, is very healing to be vulnerable with another man, and
We long for. I would venture to say that most men long for that.
yeah,
And that's a part it's a deep pain in us,
Yeah.
that we can't be that way.
right,
We see women that they can cuddle with each other, they can
Yeah,
be with each other, they
sisterhood.
can listen to each other, and there's a
tears.
deep part of us that says, is there some way that I could get that kind of support without?
right. And I'm not attracted
Yeah.
to you, dude.
Right,
And
exactly.
I care about you. You matter to me.
Yeah.
And so this has just been awesome to just break down and dissolve a lot of the patterns and the walls that are keeping our authentic, beautiful, radiant, humble, fabulous work in progress from really shining and leading. And
Thank you for pulling me.
Yeah, yeah. So if you would share with our audience because I know you've got lots of wonderful offerings and more coming, I'm sure, to kind of help men and women through the process of awakening their divine masculine. So where can people find you, hon?
So you can find me at danielofsedona.com. And I have a rite of passage program for men. It's a week-long package where you come to Sedona and we get into physical, emotional, spiritual transformation. And it's not for the weak of heart. And I know that's what you want. So I also have a free gift for you if you'll go to my webpage, which is danielposney.com/free gift. And I'm going to give you a copy of my book called One White Stone. And what else? I also have a program called Holotropic Healing, which is an extended program for people that need more of a long-term annual weekly program that we can all gather and meet online and go through content related to awakening, emotional healing, mental healing, and physical nutrition. So
Wonderful. Oh, it's so great to have you here. I've experienced Daniel's work. I've been working with you for many years, and I, when I'm not available, you're one of the first people that I refer people to. I'm like, go to Daniel in Sedona. You know, just the right fit. So many of my clients that haven't been able to see me or that I think are a better fit will go to you, and so I'm so grateful for this connection and also for the work that you're bringing out.
you.
It's so valuable. It's so impactful. So,
I'm
so
blessed
grateful.
to have you as a friend and for the support that
Likewise.
you've given me over the years, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Likewise. Yes, yes. And this is how we do it. We keep rising together, which is so beautiful. When we're in our authentic power, then we can support each other doing that. And in that place where it's safe, I can be a total mess, and you know, you'll be like, oh, me too,
Yeah,
like
hey.
I was doing that, or I just did that yesterday, or I remember that place, or to hold space for me through that process. And so I really cherish that we can have these deep relationships when we're in that place of authenticity, and I so cherish that, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yes, come visit us here in Sedona. You can find me at shamangelichealing.com. I lead all kinds of retreats and empowerment and awakening workshops here. If you are really digging this content, the Empowerment and Awakening Weekend is something that you would absolutely love. It's a 3.5-day intensive. You've actually attended that.
Go.
Go. And so that's like, you know, an immersive experience, and we address the divine masculine and feminine at deeper levels. And as a free gift for you today, I would love to offer you the chakra balancing that kind of walks you through the different chakra energy centers of the balance, creating more balance within, and 20% off the online feminine and masculine balance course. There's an online course that kind of goes into this deeper as well. And we'll do $100 off the Empowerment and Awakening Weekend if you want to come here to Sedona. So when you are here in Sedona, look both of us up. Make sure you get a session with Daniel, get one with me, and we'll go out on the land and have an amazing experience. And if you loved this show, please like and share and subscribe so that you can get other great content like this. And it really helps us if you can go onto to iTunes and give a great review. Give us your feedback, because this is how we start to share this message with so many more.
Is to go out to many more people.
Yeah, right. Because you know somebody, if this landed with you, then you know somebody that can benefit from this content. So please tag a few friends that you think might enjoy this experience. And so grateful for this.
Okay.
And we're just so blessed and so honored to have this experience, and looking forward to seeing more of you awakening your divine masculine and bringing that beautiful confidence and radiance out, and consciousness in a way only you can. So thank you for joining the Shamangelic Healing Podcast, and thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blessings.